No problem.
So Mark Mooney, the Irish Motocross The Nations team, has been official for a wee while now. All three riders, all three of them had great years, but you still had to make decisions and leave other riders out. How was it this year, picking the team compared to, say, last year or the year before? Did having the experience of picking a team previous 2 years help?
How's it going, Andy? It was a hard decision. There was a lot of people in Mear, as you can imagine, coming from all angles. But as you said there, like, somebody has to make a decision on it. So I looked at everything from the start of the season right up until the last day or two of racing, until he actually made the final call. But I suppose Jason had picked himself number one in my mind anyway, so he was going 100% the way he's been riding. And like, he's 27 going on 28, so like, he's coming to the peak of his abilities now, in my opinion. Like, he's only going to get better for the next couple of years. He's probably going to be the strongest rider we've had in a long time if he continues the way he's going. So like, he was in anyway. And Martin was, at the start of the year, it was well documented Martin sort of ruled himself out of this whole event. But once he made the post on public, on Facebook and social media and all these other places, like, I actually spoke to him after that, and in fairness, myself and Martin, we got on very well. And I just sort of said to him, tongue in cheek and off the cuff, like, look, if I need you and you're riding well, like, don't rule out a phone call from me. And we sort of laughed it off, but it was probably ingrained in his brain then, and when June, July was coming up there, he touched base with me, and we were just sort of saying, look, if you continue the way you're going, like, we're probably going to look at you 100% as a runner, because the other person that would have been, riding in my mind always would have been Stewart, but he just hasn't had his best year, so when it came down to it, Martin sort of put his hand up for us, so I couldn't overlook him either. And then obviously Cole, that was probably, would have been, it could have went either way with him. I was talking to Glenn, obviously, a good bit as well in the background, but when it came down to it, and it came down to the team and what I think he's going to bring, it is, some people might say, a bit of taking a chance, but I don't see that. I just look at the results, the effort that's going in there from his side, himself, his dad, the team that's starting to build around him, and all the positives I'm taking from him as a young man, and what he might bring. I just said, look, we'll have to just take a chance and bring him, So that was the way I was thinking. And
obviously Jason Mear, like you touched on there, he sort of picked himself. This year, I don't know what he's done over winter. From speaking to him, he says he actually hasn't changed that much, but the improvement this year has been top notch, big improvement. So you must be happy with the way he stepped it up this year and racing all around the UK.
Yeah, like, he's riding phenomenal, to be honest. Like, he's running very close to the likes of Conrad Muse. I know Hurlings is still another level, but like, to be mentioned in the same breath as him, and he has been any time he's competed against him this year, like, it's sort of, it's really, really positive from our side. And I think when we go over here, if he can get out of the gate and have a good run on the Saturday, like, there's no reason why he can't pull off a top 12 or 15, in my opinion. Possibly even better if he could get away, because he's that type of rider, like, he never ever gives up. And even when he was a young man, like, as in 15, 16-year-old coming through the schoolboy ranks, I remember seeing him coming through the back. He hasn't changed. That style that Jason has, he really has. He leaves it all out there. So, like, I'm expecting big things from him, but I don't even want him under any pressure. But, like, I just feel like he's in the best frame of mind he's ever been in going into this competition. And like, he's got a very good team around him now as well, and I think he gets on everywhere really well with the guys managing the setup there. I think he's happy with the bike. And just, I know, I'm 47 now, but like, when I was 28, you're a very different animal, and you're coming into your maximum strength as a person, so like, he's starting to peak there now, and like, if he has his best day of the year at Marley, like, I think we could do really well,
And obviously Cole McCulloch, like you touched on, is young, but in my opinion, he's one of the biggest Irish talents in a long time. And like Glenn, Stewart, Martin and Jason, he's also raced Mallardy Basin. What were the factors that led to you picking Cole? Obviously he's racing the MX125, and not only some of the best talent in Europe, but some of the best young talent in the world, and that's a great series.
Look, I looked at him. I've watched every single race that Cole's competed in this year because I have I haven't logged in for the MXGP, so I can watch it whenever I want. But I do watch it, and I studied it. And okay, he has had some results that were not quite where he wanted to be. But like what I'm looking at is his qualifying times. Okay, yeah, that's not racing, but he has the speed to get qualifying in sometimes first, second, or third. Sometimes in qualifying races, he's also doing the same thing. But his lap times are like, he's on the pace there. There's no one can deny that. And I do, maybe because this is his first year, we shouldn't be expecting the sun, moon, and stars out of Cole, and I don't put him under any pressure whatsoever. But I think he feels the pressure. I've seen him. I mentioned this to you the last time. When I saw him in Marley Basin last year at the GP, he was just floating around the place, cool as a cucumber, not a bother on him. Didn't phase him whatsoever, and I don't believe this occasion is going to phase him either. I think he's going to be very relaxed. He should be, just take it as another GP for him, and he should, if he can get a good start, if the bike that we're supposed to be getting all comes to pass, which apparently it is, there's absolutely no reason why he won't put in a very good performance on the Saturday, and I think that's what we need. We can't be trying to chase this B final every single time. It would be better for us to be relaxed going into Sunday and actually be in there. I'm not saying he will be the person to get us there. It's his team effort, but if he rides to the best of his ability and he's comfortable on this bike that he's going to be on, I can't see us. I can't see any other rider going quicker than him that could have been picked. People might argue the toss there, but I don't know. I don't know about that. I think he'll be the best for that particular class at this moment of time,
Yeah, I'm with you there. And just on the machinery, obviously, it's maybe not 100% yet, but if he does get this factory Fantic bike, I mean, obviously, from your point of view, it might be nicer to have the vibe of having the three riders under the same awning, but at the same time, I can't remember the last time an Irish rider actually had a bike under a factory awning at the Motocross the Nations. The last time was probably the Crocker days. So at the same time, we should be very pleased to see that,
Yeah, well, you're actually wrong there, because when we went to Red Bud, we had a factory bike.
Well, it was Milwaukee. It was Milwaukee, was it not?
I'm not saying you're wrong, fully, but we may have had no choice to be under the wing there. But when we got that bike, he was fully under the wing with us that time, and Brian Connolly was there. Now he was sent out there through Hitachi at the time. So okay, you could say we haven't, but I think I'm not sure exactly what the bike is going to be. I spoke to Philip there yesterday, and he's off to collect the bike tomorrow, / Thursday, as far as I'm aware. And it will have a lot of factory parts on it, and the suspension that is going from the 250YZ, or sorry, not the YZ, the Fantic that he's been riding, the 252 stroke that will go onto that bike without any problems. So I don't think they'll have a problem handling. It's just a matter of getting used to the bike, getting used to the power, and I'll be talking to Philip on a regular basis, and it's just not something I'm worried about. A lot of people ask, what's the transition like going from a 2-stroke to a 4-stroke, or 4-stroke to a 2-stroke? I know from racing motorbikes all my life, going up, I race 125s, 252 strokes, I race 250 to 4 strokes, to 454 strokes, and if you can ride a 252 stroke, in my opinion, that's sort of a man's bike. Going back down to a 254 stroke after that is not a problem. Now, I would say going to a 450 after riding either a 125 250F or a 2-stroke, there's a big adjustment there, because it's just sheer power and torque. But going from a very powerful 2-stroke engine down to a 4-stroke 250, I don't think it's big of a transition that people might think, And the other thing about it, I know that Carl rides a KTM 250 intermittently around the likes of McGilligan and other places where he practices, and by all accounts he goes very well on that, so I totally not worried about it one bit,
And in terms of Jason and Martin, do you know yet what awning they're going to be under, or is that still to be
so basically we have a truck rented from JM Racing, which is Jackie Martin's, which is the same truck we had last year, and we already have the signage and banners that'll be set up there for us. So I'm not expecting for the full 3 days that we're all under that only. But for the race day and for the qualifying day, I'd expect us all to be there as a team, and that's our base. And the main reason why I got that was what if we get showered on, like severe bad weather or something like that? Like, at least we know we've got a really good setup there, without any worries, and we're not running around in 2 or 3 different areas. We all have a base in the one spot. So that was my thinking behind it. And Jackie Martins has, I get on very well with him. He's accommodating me this year. He's promised me a very good professional setup, so I'm not really worried about it. All going well. There won't be an issue having any of the guys there. As I said, there's a big banner there. Like, it's, I'd say, 5 or 6 meters wide square for each of them, just to show the sponsors, their numbers, their name, and the bike and their area. So no, I don't think it'll be a problem. But look, if the Fantic lads are coming off to me saying we can't have the bike there or whatever, we'd have to talk about it. But I mean, my preference is that we are all under one banner, 100%.
And obviously, Martin, as you sort of touched on at the beginning of the year, when he announced there, and he started there, and he announced that was going to be the last one. But thankfully, a change of heart there. I think his riding's probably helped as well. He's been really good this year and stepped it up a bit from last year. But from your point of view, it must have been nice for him to make himself available for this event again. And he's trying to chase Tanel Leoch for this record, but Leoch just keeps coming and coming.
Yeah, I see Leoch's been picked there.
2022, I think.
21 or 2, was it? But either way, no, look, Martin, he was never happy with that Husqvarna, and he'll say that to outright, which is the last year's bike. He wasn't too bad on the one before, but I watched him in Hawkstone at the start of the year. I was over at the meeting, and straight away you could see he was riding that Honda far better, much more comfortable. His starts were better. He just seemed to not fade on the bike at all. In fact, he was sort of, midway through the race, he was charging. And I hadn't seen that from him in a while. And when I spoke to him after, only by text, he was just saying how happy he was with the bike. And this is sort of how this, Motocross the Nations conversation probably started, because every week after that race we were staying in contact over and back, and every week after that his results were getting better and better and better. And I just know he's super happy with that bike, and I think even with the team, they're very happy with him. There's no excuses at all coming from anyone. I think he didn't have his best weekend in Schoolhouse, but every other weekend up to that, he's been top 4 or 5 more or less everywhere he's gone. So how could you overlook him? You just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch wood here, but touch wood, obviously the reserve riders are Glenn McCormick, Stuart Edmonds, and James Mackerel. Is that in any particular order?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I said to Glenn initially, would he ride reserve, because he was very disappointed that I didn't pick him, understandably, because we had a conversation during the week of sort of push come to shove, and it's not that I told him he would go, but I did tell him I was really closely looking at him. But I also mentioned that Cole was in the mix, and it was a very hard decision to make, and in fact it was a very hard phone call to make, to tell him that he wasn't picked. But I left it with him to come back to me, and my choice was to put him in as a reserve for the 250 spot, and then basically Stuart put him in as the first reserve for MX1 or MX Open. And then when I spoke to James Mackerel, he just said he'd ride any class, and that was a good attitude for me. And I said, you know what, I'm going to pick you as well. And in fairness to him, he's one of those riders, I'm sure if he got the chance he'd give it his all, but no, it was hard. It wasn't an easy decision at all. It was, you could argue it could have went the other way with Glenn, but as I said, when I done my homework and really looked closely at everything, I just couldn't overlook Cole this time, And the door is open for these guys, and that's something that's really important here. Going forward, there isn't much left in years in terms of Martin, in terms of Stuart, realistically, Jason, we definitely will get some more years out of him, and obviously with Cole, he's being so young, there's a path here now for him, for possibly to break records with this event. That could happen, but it also was an opportunity for all these other young guys out there to actually look at this and take some positives out of this, because he's 16. He's only just turned 16 in June there. But like, there's other riders out there that are going to aspire to this, young fellas that are racing and riding every weekend through either north, south, going to the UK, whatever. They should see this as an opportunity, particularly for somebody like me doing the job, because I will look at them if they're doing the same type of racing or doing the same type of speed, success in that type of fashion. Like if you see what he's doing, that is, there's no doubt about it, doing the MX 125 or 250, whether you're able for it or not, by the end of it, if you do a season, you're 100% guaranteed to be going probably twice as quick as you were before you started the first event. So yeah.
And just on Ernie last year, or Red Bull for that matter, what was the biggest learning experience that you had that you think will be able to help you and maybe even the team this year? Is there anything that stands out?
From Red Bull?
Or from Ernie? From Ernie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things I wasn't happy with in Ernie. Nothing to do with the riders, nothing to do with the people that were around me, helped me or anything like that. But just a few things I noted that we probably could have done better. It's really important, I think, that we stick together on stuff like this. And then we did. But I found there was a lot of distraction in Ernie from, just general. Not people that weren't unwanted, but just a lot of Irish fans coming in and a lot of fellas coming into the setup and stuff like that. And we're gonna close it off a little bit more this year. It's going to be very much. You'll need a pass to get into where we are. So I just found that the distraction for the riders, that can't be there. They need to be focused 100% on the job, and it's easily distracted. Like, for example, Martin wasn't parked very closely to where we were operating from. Like, he had a trek to get to us every day. So we're going to try and eliminate that this year, as in we're going to get everyone tightened up. As in closer to the central base where we're going to be. The other thing is, like, little things that you mightn't see, like going out for a meal at night and sticking together, like that type of stuff is really important. We actually talk through the day, if you want, or not talk about it, just talk about other stuff like your kids or what you're doing next week or what's going on, during the day that was actually fun, as opposed to the racing. Like, there has to be downtime with this. There has to be as little pressure as possible, I found, to get the most out of the guys. And I find when you do start, okay, you have to plan, but like, if you over plan sometimes with these things, it can backfire. You just need to have a good set, staged plan going in and try and stick to that and keep everyone as close and tight as possible together. I really felt that with Ernie, because we had it more in the USA and we had no choice, because obviously we flew over there and we went as a unit together. We had to stay in the same place together. We did absolutely everything together, whereas in France we were a little bit more, one fellow was here, one fellow was there, this other guy was in the middle somewhere, so it just wasn't as joined as I would have liked. So I believe this year, the way I have it organised, it's going to be a little bit better than it was last year, but I'm not taking anything for granted either. Just because it's across the Irish Sea, it doesn't mean it isn't going to be hard. There's still a lot of planning on into this,
Yeah, and two parts to my next question. So as team manager, what's your favourite part of the role? And then on the flip of that, what would you say is the toughest bit of your role?
God, there's a lot of parts of this job that nobody would like, Andy, to be honest with you, because honestly, there's a serious amount of organising an organisation to be had and to be done. And I suppose I'm going to mention Caleb here now just for a second, because he gives me a serious help. And without him, I probably couldn't do this, because he does an awful lot for me, stuff that nobody sees, not dirty work, but just stuff that is not easy to get done. He helps me that way, Sorry, repeat the question there, because I lost me trying to talk.
Yeah, so the two parts to the question, the toughest bit, which I think you're talking about now, and then your favourite part of the role as well.
Yeah, so the toughest bit was just really, as I said, organising everything and making sure we get there and all the paperwork is correct and that we actually, we do our best. But I suppose the hardest part, or the most exciting part, standing in that box on the Saturday, for the qualifying races, watching the lap times and seeing, are we actually going to get in? If it is nail biting stuff, and we've been so close the last couple of years. I know we didn't get there last year based on one or two results, but it's very, very exciting, and I can only imagine the feeling we will get as a team if we do get through. I can imagine that the void that will go through the camp would be unbelievable, because we have had to face face 2 years of disappointment, really, even though I've enjoyed every minute of it, and so has everybody else. And it's the type of thing you'll never forget for the rest of your life. I want to be involved in one of these events where we actually qualify based on our performances. And I do think this year, with the team we have, like, we have as good a chance as any other year, provided a couple of things: we get out of the gate and we have no mechanical breakdowns, as in the bikes go well and the lads get good starts. I think that's the key here. Okay, the weather might come into play a little bit, but that to me will be sort of the most important thing, that they, as I said, good starts, no mechanical failures. We've a good a chance as anyone. I was looking at some of the other teams there, when I look at the names, okay, there's probably 5 or 10 teams that are, you can say, right, there's the first 10. But after that, maybe down to 15th, 16th, 17th, in around those positions. There is no reason why we can't get in there, So from an excitement point of view, that would be the one thing for me, getting through. But even not getting through is, honestly, as a manager of the event and feeling like a lot of it's resting on my shoulders, that has been a huge part for me, like extremely exciting on the day,
Yeah, and obviously last year what I thought was really good was the 4 of the guys raced the Matter Basin GP to prepare for Ernie. Now obviously it was close to home, so it was a bit easier to do. Speaking to you last year, you did say you were hoping the guys would maybe do 2 or 3 or 4 GPs. It hasn't happened. Jason Mear obviously did race AMX Open at Lommel, which is quite good. But do you think there's any chance we could maybe see them do 1 or 2 GPs in 2025? Is that something you'd be willing to help with? Because I'm sure you want to see these guys race at the Haas level, and then if they do 2 or 3 GPs, they're sort of better prepared mentally for such a big event.
Yeah, look, this year got away from me a little bit with that. Although I had said to Martin, Jason, and Glenn last year that, look, if you want to do a GP or 2 or 3, I told them that we, as in my company, Mooney's or Autoboy, we would sponsor the entry and the license fee, right? So that stands, and that offer still stands to anyone that wants to do. That's just not the riders that I'm talking about here. If anyone in Ireland wants to do a Grand Prix, and I think that they're fit to do it, as in, they're capable of doing it, that offer is open to them, and we will pay for that. So that offer has been open for the year. Glenn was going to do Arnhem, I think, but he unfortunately cancelled last minute because he was running very high in the Scottish Championship, and it was a decision he made to do with me now at all, but he knew that the offer was there. Jason, who did go to Lommel, we covered the fees on that one for him, and as I said, the entry, that offer's there. But I do think, 2024 for me is very much distracting. Like I've another newborn baby there recently. She's only 7 weeks old. I've just so much going on with my family and my kids and my work. I sort of just left it out there hanging, and not that anyone didn't go back to me, but they were all having busy seasons, so that's probably the reason why. But for 25, I suppose the offer is there. I'd like to honestly do 4 or 5 GPs with 3 or 4 or 5 riders that want to do it. We can't pay for everything, but we will certainly, as a promise, will guarantee the entry fee and the license fee for anyone who wants to do it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a fair offer, so whoever listens to this tonight, maybe they take us up on that. Now that doesn't have to be an MXGP. I'm happy to put someone through on a 125 or a 250 class if they want to do it.
Yeah, well, that was my next question. Actually, in my opinion, Cole is kind of doing it the right way. Now I get that it's hard and it costs a lot financially, but he's kind of just said, look, I'm not going to race in England. I'm going to go race all around Europe and do EMX 125 and the Dutch Masters. Would you like to see, if it's possible, more young riders, go and race, maybe not all the EMX 125s, but 2 or 3 here or there, and then 2 or 3 Dutch Masters? Because racing in England's good, but it's very different to GP level, whereas when you start to go across to Europe, it gets a bit more similar, and I think it prepares you better, and especially at a young age. If you want to make a name for it in your career, I think that's probably what you have to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, like the British isn't quite what it used to be, in my opinion. You look back 10 or 20 years ago, like there was a lot more activity there, in my opinion, from the GP riders. Now you do get the odd one going, but it's probably not quite the same. They are fast, there's no doubt about it. But I do agree with you, like the European stuff, it does supersede it, and I think anyone that goes into that will take a leap or 2 very fast. Whereas if they go to the UK, I'm not saying they won't, but like it's just not the same environment. It's not the same sort of thinking it's not the same setup, even though it's good. It's just not quite as high level as the European circuit. So and I would never discredit that. It's if you look back at some of the best Irish motocrossers we've ever had, they were all British champions at one point or the other, or very close to being British champions. So it's a very high level championship, but just not quite at the same level it would have been.
And
as I said, 10 or 15 years ago. But
and finally, it takes a lot of help from teams, sponsors, volunteers to organise a motocross the nation event. Probably a lot more than what people realise. So, who all would you like to thank for making all this possible? Really?
Well, look, we sponsor it somewhat, but we don't sponsor anything substantial. We do give a few, say, €3,000 or €4,000 every year to the motocross nation. Now, we've done that historically. And we also will do that for the Coupe this year. We also done it for the Junior World Championship. So we're invested to the tune of €10,000 or €12,000 every year for them type of events, right? But since I came on board with this, I have a very wide reach of motor dealers here in Dublin and around the country, and just guys we're dealing with literally for years. So there's probably too many to mention, and they don't want to be mentioned. But there's 20 or 30 motor dealers that give us probably €500 to €1,000 each time we go to run this event, and there's 2 or 3 banks that actually give us some money as well. One of them is Bank of Ireland, believe it or not. The other is Permanent TSB. And another crowd that we deal with is Finance Ireland. So these people give us money for this event. So I'd like to suppose mention them, but I mean, they don't want to be mentioned in real terms. They just doing it for the good of what they get through our company in finance business. That we people come into us to buy cars, and we sign them up through these banks, so they get the benefit of getting a customer out of it, but they give it back to us in this way. And we could put the money anywhere, but they want us to put it into motocross because they know that it's a motor racing background, But there is I know from Calum has the guys from Start Solar. I think they have given us a fair contribution. There's another couple of guys there that are sort of independent that give us money, but again, they just don't want to be mentioned, So it's really just motor based backing we have, which is great to have. But it was harder now this year so far to get the money in. You mentioned places like America, like France, it's easier to get the money in because you're travelling a little bit further. You mentioned places like the UK, which isn't so far. They don't want to give you as much, but they're still contributing. So it's coming in, I would say, healthily enough, as opposed to coming in thick and fast. If you know what I mean, it's not too bad. It's all good,
Well, that's great, Mark. Thank you very much for your time, and good luck for Team Ireland at the Motocross the Nations, and I'll see you there.